All right, you guys, this is the daunting unit circle. So, I provided copies of the unit circle for everyone on Google Classroom. I also have them printed out at school with Lisa, and if you had me for a center class, I handed them out the last center class we had. So, please, please, please don't try to draw this on your own. If you do, try to make it as perfect as possible. But if you don't have a printer at your house, Lisa has copies at the front desk, so you can send someone from your family there. Or if that's 100% completely impossible, go ahead and email me. But this unit circle right here, we are going to label degrees. We're going to label radians, and then we're going to label the coordinates. The coordinates are found by relating back to our special right triangles. That's our 30, 60, 90, where this is a 1, this is 1/2, and this is root 3 over 2. And then our 45, 90s, where this is root 2 over 2, and root 2 over 2, and 1. Because if you remember, the x is the cosine and the y is the sine, so we're going to go ahead and label those as coordinate points as we go through. But first off, let's start with degrees. That's going to be the easiest thing. That's going to go in the dashed blanks. So, starting from the very beginning, remember we are always starting from the east when we do unit circles. That's 0 degrees. Up there, that's 90 degrees. And then at the straight line, it's 180. Then you have 270. And then that double line under there is for the 360. Make sure you label them all as angles because that's what they are. Now, you can see 3 little markings within each quadrant that we don't have labeled. These markings are 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. And then every other quadrant after that is going to be variation. These markings on the first quadrant are our reference angles, and then after that are our angle values that we are going to then use to find our reference angles from there when we solve problems. So right here, this is 120, this is 150, I keep forgetting to put my degrees. This is 210 degrees, 240, 270, 300, 330. Those were all of the 30-degree increments that I did. I skipped over the 45s, which are halfway between the quadrant ends. There we go. So I have a 45, a 90, then I have a 135. I just add 45 to that. 135 plus 45 gives us 180. We already have that in there. 180 plus 45 gives us 225. Add 45, you get 270. Add another 45, you get 315. And then you have completed your unit circle. So we're 3 minutes in, a little over 3 minutes in. Go ahead, take this time, write down the angle measures, pause, and then come back and we're going to get into the radians. All right, and hopefully if you played it, it's because you're ready to move on to radians. Now, we are going to fill out the radians through the knowledge that you guys learned in the prior sections, is that pi is equivalent to 180 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and we'll just start off with 0 on that first line for radians. And then we've got pi over here at the 180. You guys know that much, and you know that 2 pi is a circle, which is right under the 0. We're going to go ahead up to that 90-degree marker, and that is half of pi, so that's pi over 2. Then at the 270-degree marker, that is 1.5 pi, which is 3 pi over 2. Not too shabby, right? Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and temporarily just highlight a few lines for you guys. I'm going to highlight this 45 and then this 135. If you see, this cuts our first 180 degrees, our first pi, up into 4 equivalent pieces. So if at this first red line right here, if that is 1/4 of pi, then we call that pi over 4. Then you have pi over 2, which is a 2 pi over 4 when reduced. And then this third one, that arrow right there, that is 3 pi over 4. You can then follow that down into the next quadrant, into this piece. That's 225. It looks like it could be 240. 240 is the one below that, but 225, that is pi over 4 greater than pi, which is 5 pi over 4, and I'm going to go back and do that in blue. Then we already have 6 pi over 4 taken care of. That's 3 pi over 2. And then this right here is 7 pi over 4. And then 2 pi is 8 pi over 4, and that's reduced. So we have all the pi over 4 pieces done. So make sure you've filled in that much, because now we're going to go into the related to pi over 6. So in the yellow, I'm going to highlight these lines. Give me a second while I do this. Obviously, you don't need to do this. I'm just doing this to draw your attention, since I typically teach this in a classroom, and I'm not teaching it in a classroom. So these yellow markings occur at every 30-degree increment, which there are 6 30 degrees in 180 degrees, right? So that means our first set of pi, so those top 2 quadrants, that's going to be broken up in 6 pieces. So, believe it or not, this right here is pi over 6. It's 1/6 of pi. This 60-degree marker is 2 pi over 6, which can get reduced to pi over 3, and that's what we'll refer to it as. Then pi over 2, that's the same thing as 3 pi over 6, but we keep it at pi over 2 because it's easier that way. And then we have a 4 pi over 6 at that next yellow line, which can be reduced to a 2 pi over 3. And then we have a 5 pi over 6. And then 6 pi over 6 is pi, and that's taken care of. Now, we are going greater than pi now. So that means we are going to be adding a pi over 6 to our, oh no, hold on, that's not good. There we go, better. That moved somehow. But we're now going to be adding a 6 pi over 6. And we're going to be adding the pi over 6's to it. So that means this is a 7 pi over 6. The next one is 8 pi over 6, which is a 4 pi over 3. 3 pi over 2 is the same thing as 9 pi over 6. Then at 300 degrees, it's 10 pi over 6, which is 5 pi over 3. And then 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6 is this last one. And then 12 pi over 6 is 2 pi. Okay, so we have all the degrees and the radians measured. Go ahead, fill those out. I'm going to clean this up so that we can go ahead and kind of more successfully label those coordinates out. I'm going to get rid of all this excess as I can. So make sure you have this completed, and we will resume in a second. Okay, that's as good as it's going to get, you guys. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop into coordinates. Now, these coordinates are found by looking at these special right triangles. So I'm actually still getting rid of random work. But those special right triangles are over here on our left-hand side. And we are going to be using these coordinates based off of these reference angles. Now, to give you an idea behind what I mean these reference angles, remember how we were drawing those lines down to the x-axis and then measuring the degrees and then finding the lengths? Now you're going to create them in those full coordinate points for the whole circle. So this first 30 degrees, that's a reference angle. So that's going to be 30, 60, 90. So your y value is going to be 1/2, and your x value is going to be √3/2. The best part of the 30 and the 60 is that they swap. So now we're going to have 1/2 and √3/2 at that 60 degree mark. Now the 45, that's a 45, 45, 90, which that's always going to be √2/2 and √2/2. So we have the first quadrant labeled, except for this, which is 1, 0, and 0, 1. Now, if you guys remember back, we talked about everything being positive in the first quadrant. Your x values are negative, but your y values are positive in quadrant 2. X and y are both negative in quadrant 3, and then x is positive and y is negative in quadrant 4. We are now going to take these 3 coordinate pairs, and we just have to apply the negative and positive rules to them, and then we will have the whole unit circle complete. It's kind of crazy, but that's what it is, and it's perfect because it's a pattern. So looking at this 120 degrees, that is a -1/2 √3/2. It matches that. Then at the 135, that's a 45 degree reference angle. That's a -√2/2, comma √2/2. It's once again negative because x and cosine is negative in quadrant 2. Then this is -√3/2 and positive 1/2. Then at 180, we're at -1, 0. That's just a regular old point. Now we're at everything's negative. Now we're going to look at them mirroring across the x-axis. So this is going to be a -√3/2, -1/2. -√2/2, -√2/2. And then -1/2, -√3/2. And you guys have 3 whole quadrants complete. Now getting into that last quadrant, this is a 0, -1. And these values are going to be, they're all mirrored with each other around a different axis, but I'm going to go ahead and label them mirrored this way. So now your y values are negative and your x values are positive. So we have a √3/2 and a -1/2. A √2/2 and a -√2/2. Then you have a a positive, see, even I mess up on it, a positive 1/2 and a -√3/2. And you guys, that is it. That, I believe, is 55 different pieces in this unit circle to create it. So it's quite the feat, but the best part is now you guys have it, and you guys get to utilize it. So I'm going to give you guys some time to write this down and finish it up. We are like 14 minutes into this video. It's a long one, but this is really the big chunk of what we're looking at today.